Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal International. We'll begin with our top stories. Sad story as a family of 7 has been reduced to 3 after a midnight fire ravaged their home in a locality called Quartier Abana in Cameroon's economic city, Douala. And the government of Cameroon has taken stringent measures that sanctions persons promoting hate speech, xenophobia, unprecedented tribalism, and a stigmatization of some ethnic groups or components of society. We'll talk about that in this edition of Newscast. And build back biodiversity by saving endangered wild animals and plant species preoccupy nations as they commemorate World Biodiversity Day this May 22, 2023. Those are major stories. Details right after. Been reduced to 3 after a midnight fire ravaged their home in a locality called Quartier Abana in Cameroon's economic city, Douala. 3 of the family members were rescued, amongst them a candidate who was supposed to write the probatoire examinations this morning. More on the story with our reporter, Saleh Sharifa.
It was total dissolution at Quartier Bana in the Newbell neighborhood of the Douala 2 district. A family of 7 was reduced to 3 by a midnight fire that ripped through their home. The victims were all squatting in a polygamous home left by their late father. One of the widows died with her child and 2 grandchildren, while the other widow is still comatose due to the shocking happening. Mote Gervais is a neighbor who dashed into the flames to rescue the 3 survivors. He sustained a 1st-degree burn on the hand.
When I got out of the house, I took a keen look and I saw flames on the other side. That's how I found my way in by breaking the door of the main entrance. We were able to save 3 people, but unfortunately 4 passed away.
One of the survivors is a candidate of the ongoing probatoire exams that kicked off this Monday, May 22. The 2 other survivors have been hospitalized at the Newbell District Hospital.
The
cause of the fire yet to be known. Early in the morning, sympathizers were performing rituals on the site by washing their faces with water and pouring on the ashes to say never again should it happen.
Quite a sad incident there. And we'll take you to the northwest region of Cameroon, precisely in a village called Keku, where the population have decried alleged threats of the acts of violence, whereby about 50 old women of that village were beaten up by alleged separatist fighters for protesting against some of their decisions or with levying monthly payments on villages. Reports say the Amber fighters had earlier announced a series of financial amounts to be paid by each of the indigents of that village. More on the story with our reporters Annie Collins and Saleh Sharifa.
For some days now, there has been general confusion and fear in Keku village in Tuba subdivision of the Northwest region. This follows a series of acts of violence whereby about 50 old women were summarily beaten up by separatist fighters for protesting against some of their decisions, levying monthly payments on villagers. Reports say the Amber fighters had earlier announced a serious financial amount to be paid to them by each indigene of Babankie village. According to the levies, each family head is to pay 5,000 francs, women 3,000, and adolescents 1,000 francs. It was during a protest against the amber measures that the women were rounded up. The administration has still not reacted to the bloody happenings.
And the government of Cameroon has taken stringent measures that sanctions persons promoting hate speech, xenophobia, unprecedented tribalism, and stigmatization of some ethnic groups and all components of society, quoting Section 77 of Law Number 2010, 012 December 2010 on cyber security and cybercrime in Cameroon, and Section 241 of Law Number 2019/020 of December 24, 2019, which amend and supplement some provisions of Law Number 2016/007 of 12 July 2016 on the Penal Code, which punishes contempt of tribe or ethnicity, shall hence be applied strictly according to the communique signed today, May 22, 2023, by the Minister of Territorial Administration. Any person henceforth found guilty of hate speech and any media used as a conveyance of xenophobia and messages shall be punished by the law. These same sanctions goes to or those who propagate hate speech and violence on social media platforms. We'll certainly come back to that in subsequent editions of newscasts. Tired of lashing out their frustrations in hospitals, corridors, the nurses at the Yaoundé Emergency Center are on the street or were on the street this Monday, May 22, 2023. Their grievances ranges from lack of salaries and many other problems. More on this story with our reporter, Hyson Cha.
Sitting on the pavement at the entrance of the hospital, others standing carrying cartons like boards with the content of their hearts. Messages such as homage to our colleagues' death while saving lives and an appeal for God's intervention. Their writings and postures tell us of their state of unhappiness. 5 hours, they block the entrance and no emergency situation could get in. They are the nurses of the Yaoundé Emergency Center. After 9 years for some and 15 for others of no salary, status, social security coverage, and many but monthly motivational allowances put out here in this simple calculation. Today's abandonment of gloves, syringes, and others comes after letters containing their 17-point revendication were deposited to the competent authorities. But the reply they received that there is nothing to do for us, that we should go elsewhere. We are receiving the threats and intimidation. Till date, we are abandoned to ourselves. After these wasted years, they are now old and above integration age. Saving lives they have done with joy at this center, especially of top personalities.
Nous avons sauvé des vies. La catastrophe des États, nous avons géré ceci. Le corona, on l'a géré.
Their distress cry, simply to say, enough is enough. Out of force. Mr. President, help us.
On n'arrive pas à manger réellement à nos fins. Et on est tellement exigeant dans cette structure.
At the time of this report, the director of the center was not around, and we were made to understand that he is the only one that can reply to our preoccupations. The disgruntled nurses say they will continue their manifestation until a positive solution.
And for some time now, the municipal police have been seen almost in all street corners here in Cameroon's economic city. Douala to fight against urban disorders. Some inhabitants have decried their presence, saying they extort huge amounts of money from them. Let's talk about this story, or a complete story, with our reporter, Saleh Sharifa.
According to Douala inhabitants, the municipal police is a pest. Out of 10 people we interviewed on the streets, 8 have expressed indignation against the municipal police. There are times you just discover a personal vehicle parked in front of you with the municipal agents, and they confiscate your cars, your motorcycles, and sometimes documents, and then we don't know how to recover them. I think they work well, but sometimes they abuse too much. And a little problem, they just want money. Those who dwell in Douala complain it's difficult to identify the real professionals. Meanwhile, others have appreciated their presence and think they do a great job. For me, there is no exaggerations. Everyone does their job, maybe elsewhere, but not in our sector. Because thanks to them, we are well organized here. I can't stand against them because with the urban disorder we have, they try to play a small role and they help the population. From every nook and cranny, the population are reported to be subjected to harassment from the municipal police. Many citizens are known to have engaged in fierce conflicts with the municipal police corps, who erects control points with intentions to extort money from citizens. The release by the Douala City Mayor, timely as this, is hoped to deter unscrupulous members of the municipal police.
And a release from the Douala City Mayor condemns some members of the municipal police corps for extorting huge amounts of money from drivers or from citizens of Douala, thereby tarnishing the image of the corps despite the important role they play in town. Their actions remain questionable and annoying to many citizens in Douala, who have described them as corrupt and always operate with malicious intentions. They are reputed for persistently harassing citizens, sometimes on bikes. Those who dwell in Douala complain it's difficult to identify the real professionals. This is a reason for the outing of the city mayor, who has called for vigilance on the part of the population.
We cannot accept that kind things like corruption, all that one. You cannot accept this.
The ill-intentioned municipal police are seen or spotted on strategic entering points like the Warri Bridge. The City Council condemns such practices and warns those acting in illegality to restrain.
So when you have that kind of things on the road, try to regulate her. Try to come and see people, the management of City Council, to explain.
The City Council expressed doubts of the training of other agents for municipalities, but requests for government to review the sector. And students have been urged to take the challenge of nature protection as the surest way of staying healthy. In the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, this Monday, they received lessons from environmental experts on wildlife conservation. These, as Cameroon joined other countries to observe World Biodiversity Day. More with our reporter, Hyson Cha.
Protecting the environment and the rich biodiversity remains an urgent fight as the dangers of environmental destruction keep growing by the day, consisting a veritable threat to human health. And as Cameroon joins the world this May 22nd to commemorate the International Biodiversity Day, the African Conservation with Aerodec are out to initiate an environmental awareness school program baptized Wildlife and Nature Education, piloted by Den Planet.
The main objective for this program is to create some kind of enthusiasm with these students and youth so they can take environmental issues seriously, environmental protection seriously. We want a lot of youth to get concerned with environmental issues.
A message well assimilated by the young learners as they pledge to watch their daily actions and intensify sensitization.
I think it's a very good idea and I really love it, so I'm going to really participate in it, put all my effort in it to ensure that I also sensitize my friends and all my family members, neighbors and all my other relatives in such a way that we try to put in place a good environment, try to build up our environment to be the place in which we are going to live there happily and joyfully.
Even foreign environmental researchers were here to ring the bell on the alarming nature of destroying wildlife and the forest.
I saw some bushmeat. That's a problem as well when people are shooting the monkeys and the apes. The number of timber trucks I saw leaving the forest was upsetting. I think it's time to stop cutting down old forests and only grow new forests, new trees.
It was also an opportunity for the students to showcase their know-how in the drawing of different endangered species with the best given special recognitions.
And the rights of people living with disabilities are constantly being violated despite national and international instruments to protect their rights. It is against this backdrop that the United Nations Human Rights Commission for Central Africa, Henry Atembe, completes the story for us.
According to figures from the Ministry of Social Affairs, Cameroon has about 2 million people living with disability. They are sometimes stigmatized with the rights violated. This is the reason why stakeholders are meeting to grapple with the United Nations Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, we are very concerned by the situation of this population. Is why we decided to organize this training to reinforce their capacities, to allow them to be able to defend themselves, their right, and also the right of the people of these the groups. So we are working together with the government and the organization of persons with disability themselves for the advancement of their rights.
If the arsenal of texts that protect human rights and those of people living with disabilities well understood, then the problem now remains that of application. At the dual representation of the United Nations Center for Human Rights and Democracy in Central Africa, and people living with disabilities have come together to protect their rights.
And that report by Kejang Henry Atembe brings us to the end of this edition of the Primetime Newscast, the English Canal, the International. Thanks so much for watching. Berdot Gwewe for coming up next is The Brief with Mark Shwamo. As for me, I'll be back same time tomorrow. Good night.